All right, and we're live. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. It is going to be a fun one to talk about, that's for sure. There's so much I feel like we're going to want to discuss. But before we jump into it, as always, if you want to support the channel, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, subscribe. And then if you're interested in getting access to Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and so much more at wholesale prices, message me on Discord or check the link down in the description below to join our wholesale program. So, but yeah, I think that's the main rundown. Obviously, check out Alex on his stream. I mean, do you want me to just kind of take it away on what we're going to talk about today? Because I mean, there's only a ton of stuff to discuss. All right. Here's the deal, guys. You know, we obviously just got a new set release with Shrouded. And
did we though? Did we?
Yeah, right. Fair enough. Fair enough. So for those of you guys that don't already know, most people should know at this point, there has been a lot of delays with product. And that's just more than just the ETBs, but there has been shipment delays with actual like shipping companies, freight companies, and so on and so forth. And so there has been a lot of like confusion going on, because if you guys are following what's going on right now with the Shrouded Fable prices, it is wild to see. Like the Cassiopeia being at like 125 is not that crazy. I think I said I thought it was going to be around 80 to 100. So that's not that crazy. But then also you look at some of the other cards, like I'm not even going to try and pronounce the Fezandipity. Fezandipity, is that how you pronounce it? Card going for like 70, 76, Earthen Vessel going for 50. And here's the deal, right? Like, is it because of pull rates? Because there's already been multiple reports that not only are regular SIR pull rates, but IR pull rates are just atrocious. Or is it because we don't have the ETBs yet, right? So there's just so much chaos kind of going on around Shrouded, that there's just a lot of questions that really need to be answered. And then there's another kind of talking point we'll get into later, but I wanted to start off by saying that.
No, I mean, I just think one of the biggest things is obviously the product. Like, you just can't find packs to open, you know. I know you said you're basically sold out of all the collection boxes. My local card shop was down to their last little bit. And I mean, it just got released. Like, there's just not a lot of packs out there. And we still have a couple of weeks before we get ETBs. And so there's a good chance we're going to run out of packs to open. And with no packs, there's no cards. With no cards, no supply, the prices will probably continue to rise. I mean, honestly, like, not trying to cause FOMO, because I think they'll come down. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cassiopeia at like 150 in a couple of weeks before the ETBs come, and see maybe that Fezandipity card hit 100, because there's going to be no supply hitting the market until the end of the month. At which point, yeah, I would expect them to come down and regulate, but just Pokemon botched this release.
Alfred's saying that the Fezandipity might be competitively viable, which is one of the reasons why it's going for so much. So I guess that's true. I mean, but even then, Alfred, although I agree with you, Earthen Vessel is already a very playable card. It's super duper good. Earthen Vessel shouldn't be going for $50. Like, that's
people scrambling. It could be people scrambling too to pick stuff up before Worlds. Is another reason.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Earthen Vessel lowest listed is going for $50 right now. Yeah, like that's wild to me. Like, that's absolutely crazy. So that's where the confusion is, I guess, is like, I look at it and I say to myself, I don't know what to think of it, you know? Because
I mean, the pull rates are definitely going to help too. Like, even when the ETBs do get here, I wouldn't expect a lot of these cards to crash, because if the pull rates stay relatively the same with the ETBs and they're very hard to pull, I mean, it's a good thing. Like, I know a lot of people are in the camp of like, they don't like it or something, or they want to be able to pull all the shiny stuff. It's like, yeah, I mean, I get it. It's cool to be able to pull shiny stuff. Like, I think my personal belief is I like the lower hits to be easier to hit, like the EXs and maybe the A specs or some other things. But having those top tier, god tier rarities of the main hits in the set, having those $100, $200, $300 cards like the Greninja and things, that's what keeps the sets being open. That's what keeps the supply dropping. That's what keeps things, you know, relatively expensive, so that stores like you can make money. You know, there's actually money to be made in otherwise we'd be having a Scarlet Violet base scenario where boxes are $80, stores are losing money, there's no value, no one wants to open it. So I think Pokemon's treading that line in a good way right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny to see too because you look at ETB prices, and ETB prices on TCG Player are like $40. So it's kind of weird to see because like the Kingdra Greninja boxes have been holding strong in their value, but the ETBs are still really weak right now. So I guess we can't say we're fully surprised because, you know, people want product here and now. And so this is what's available. And they're like, oh, well, I guess I could get ETBs if I want to open more packs. But
what if Pokemon is, I know everyone wants to like bury their head in the sand and act like Pokemon doesn't pay attention to any of this. What if like they are just evil geniuses and they know how to create this hype and demand, and maybe they even went further and they kind of seen, you know, some of these economic times happening across the world, and they got ahead of it and said, hey, we're going to lower our print runs. We're going to print less product because we see things slowing in the economy. That way we can still keep the, you know, the train rolling and the demand there, because, you know, some of these other card games like, you know, Lorcana, One Piece that are, you know, printing large amounts of product into this kind of economic downturn, they're getting crushed, and Pokemon's not doing that. And well, it's paying off.
Well, we did have a pretty bad stock market crash this past couple of days ago. That was pretty filthy. So you definitely have to wonder if that's something that the Pokemon company has pre-planned out in the future, anticipating this to happen. I mean, especially considering the fact that the Pokemon company is based out of Japan, and also as well, specifically the Japan stock market. I think it was since 1987 is what they said was one of the worst hits for the Japanese economy. So there's a lot of like fear going around when it comes to the stability of the market, especially with unemployment rate. Although we don't have like a ton of data, there is someone that has done a opening of, it looks like 2,000 packs, so it's not that crazy, but it looks like their pull rates for IRs were 1 in 12.
So that's the same.
Yeah. So I guess it's weird because, I mean, they said golds were 1 in 118, full arts were 1 in 24, full art SPs were 1 in 36, and then SIRs were 1 in 64.
Okay, that's actually come down from Temporal and Twilight. I think those were 1 in 82. So now it could just feel like they're harder because we have we're starving for packs, and all these products they released, like these blisters, these mini tins, these collection boxes, they're like 2, 3, 4, 5 pack products. So we haven't gotten our main source of the packs yet. So maybe that's why it's feeling like that.
Yeah, they said 2,354 packs. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. More time will tell. I mean, we'll probably get bigger pack sample sizes here, sooner than later. It was interesting too because I know that like Danny Phantom did a video on his pull rates. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to say the least. So, but I'm just looking at it and I'm just asking myself the question how this is going to affect Stellar more than anything, right? Because the biggest criticism past like, oh, there's not a Lapras, is that Stellar Crown has a very limited amount of IRs. And so the question is like, is that IR going to not be as expensive for the Bulbasaur and the Squirtle? Or are they still going to be expensive regardless because of the demand for the cards? Like, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or where you kind of anticipate the prices for the cards to be. I could definitely see the IRs. I mean, oh man, it's so hard to say because like originally I was having a conversation with someone else about this and I was like, yeah, I think it could be like $30, $40 reasonably, I think is where it could be. But like also you're looking right now and it's a completely different set. There's way different supply, but the Persian right now is going for almost $40. And although it's a cool Persian card, I don't think it's a Squirtle or a Bulbasaur. So it makes me wonder like, okay, obviously ETBs haven't come out, so maybe prices are going to go down for this. But is this maybe bode well, or is it still going to be potentially around the $30-$40 price range, or maybe it'll go higher? Like, I don't know if you have any thoughts on what it's going to be like for those specific cards in general.
I mean, it's so hard to draw comparisons. It's like, I think a good comparison to Squirtle and Bulbasaur is Eevee. I think Eevee is strong enough to be considered in that conversation. However, Eevee's in Twilight Masquerade, which is absolutely bonkers right now. And so it's hard to say it's going to be as expensive as Eevee. But then you have other top IRs. You have Groudon, you have Tyranitar, Raichu, Magikarp. Like, these top Pokemon in the IR position are performing extremely well across the board in all the sets. It's not just Twilight. And so I understand what you're saying. Like, to me, that sounds like a reasonable price too. But I also would not be at all surprised if they're $50, $60 IRs.
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
it seems too high, but it's just like what we've seen so far. I mean, it could be, and again, it depends on the quality too. If the print quality is just as bad as the other ones, there's going to be grading plays, and people are going to value it higher because they're trying to find those 10s. Then when the 10s do get hit and they go for multiple hundreds of dollars, people are going to want that margin, so it's going to cause more buyout. I honestly see a path, if the quality's bad, so those can get ran up to $50, $60 a card.
Yeah. How much do you play into the less IRs? Like, how much do you think that matters in your mind? Like, if there's less IRs in a set.
And then the hit rates are exactly the same as the other sets.
Yes.
Gosh, it's hard to tell, because Twilight's really the only set so far that's had lower IRs, because Paldea and Paradox, they're the two most stacked sets in the whole era so far in terms of SIR IRs. And those are the ones with the high value ones, right? You could, the Ghastly held some value for a second, and then obviously Eevee, and both of those sets are low. It definitely makes it harder, I would say, for value, because if the hit rates are the same, there's less of them, you're going to pull them more often. So that's the only thing I could see holding them back.
Yeah, that's definitely the question, right? Because I think Stellar Crown's going to do really well. But here's, I guess, the next most important question. This is something we actually talked about a little bit before the stream. How does this kind of change your approach on the way in which you go about getting product? Because if we're just following what Twilight Masquerade's doing, I mean, obviously, like in the wholesale program, for example, there was a bundle that was offered, which sold really quickly, where you could get access to Twilight at wholesale, but like you had to pick up some other product in order to do it. So I guess my question is, like, where does this kind of take your position in just looking at what Twilight's doing and how that's kind of prepping you for Stellar Crown and what you might be doing in terms of picking up product?
Basically, the title of this video, everything has changed. Everything has changed. This is not Sword and Shield anymore. Waiting is over. Waiting is over. At this point, I have a lot of contacts in this space, like multiple people who own stores, who have distribution, who run online shops, who just have a lot of contacts themselves. I have put out feelers lately everywhere I can, and no one's got Twilight. And what I mean by that, you're going to say, Alex, I can buy it right now on eBay. I mean, no one's got Twilight anywhere near $95 to $100 a box. It's gone. Even off the major platforms in person, like, PayPal, friends and family. No one's got it for it. And even, Eli, his distribution is down to limit of one case from distributors that do have it. And we see it with Paldea. I mean, I've talked about it in my video earlier, but I got laughed at, ridiculed in my own Discords, in my comment sections, for saying you need to pick up Paldea now when it was $85.90 a box. And people were saying, Alex, you're so stupid. It's a brand new set. I'm picking up LO and Silver Tempest and Astral and Brilliant at Pokemon Center before it sells out. We got years to pick up Paldea. Maybe we get a reprint. Maybe we don't. Right. And if you don't, you are going to see Paldea eclipse Silver Tempest, eclipse some of these other boxes faster than you think. And so how I'm changing my way I do things, I am upping the amount of boxes I purchase at release like none other. I told Eli, I already had a whole bunch of Stellar Crown ordered. I think I'm going to put in an order for even more, just because it's getting more and more difficult to find boxes after release.
Yeah. No, it's going to be Stellar's going to be an interesting release. I was informed, obviously information always changes, sadly, that we should get our numbers this week. So I'm hoping that on next Tuesday's video, we can kind of break that down and talk about it. But it's definitely going to be fascinating, to say the least, to see what like the actual results are going to look like for allocations. I mean, I don't see why things would change for Stellar. I mean, Stellar seems to be a set that's more anticipated than some of the previous ones, but you never know because you also got to assume that with the Dragon set and the Team Rocket set that Pokemon might be gearing up for that. Or who knows, because with the Shrouded ETBs being delayed, it kind of like asks the question, why were they delayed? Is there something that we don't know that's going on? I'll kind of touch on it a little bit, but like I said, we had a Twilight bundle that was in the program, and 151. If you don't know, there's booster bundles. It looks like there's going to be a resupply / reprint. We don't know yet what the full numbers are going to be, so we'll talk about them more next week as well. But that is something we're supposed to be getting here in the next week or two. So ultimately, it seems to be there's some alluding to more product coming into the market. And like I said before, wait for the holiday seasons. Once holiday season rolls around, then you start to see crazy amount of supply flood the market. We're in August. We're about to go into the holiday season starting next month. So for me, I am kind of looking at this and saying to myself, all right, like things are about to kind of kick into gear with general supply is at least my general anticipation with all of this. So you would assume that they would have a ton of available product for Stellar Crown because most of the sets that do come out during the holiday season, there's usually a plentiful amount of.
You know what's funny is like we don't all as a collective community agree on much, right? One thing I felt like was pretty unanimous across the entire community, no matter where you looked, was Twilight Masquerade's a crap set. It's gonna bomb. Nobody wanted it. Who wants these masks? You know, it was gonna be the worst set of a generation. And all the people that think they can just like successfully pick sets and know exactly what's going to happen, like this is like the biggest slap in the face, like wake up call. Like you just cannot predict these markets. It's performing better than any set in this era. Honestly, out of the gate, if you take the amount of time it's been out, it's performed better than most Sword and Shield sets. Worst set ever, right?
I think here's how I look at Twilight, right? I mean, I'm going to probably get hate for this. I still don't like the set. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that it still won't perform well just because I don't like the set. That's just an opinion. That's not objective of what's the reality. I think that the set is performing extremely well because of pull rates. And I think at the end of the day, you could have sets that are terrible. I'm not saying Twilight's terrible, but I'm saying that like you could have a set that could be a bad set, but it is still going to perform extraordinarily well because pull rates play a huge factor on the scarcity of cards, and people like a chase. At the end of the day, what makes a set popular is there a chase? That's why when we talk about like, oh, what sets do people like? They like sets that are, you know, popular characters, cool art designs, and general scarcity. All three of those things just really signify demand for a card. And if that card is in demand and valuable, people want that card. So when you go and see what's happening with Greninja and you see what's happening with Perrin and Carmine, like you immediately see those cards and you say, hey, those are your 3 chase cards. People like it, right? Obviously for the IR slot, you can get the Eevee, and there are a couple of other SIRs that are still of like decent value. But ultimately at the end of the day, you look at that set and you say there are chases and people want chases, and that's why the set's doing really well. And that's just the reality of the situation, right? And so going forward, I think the biggest thing that we have to really kind of always keep in mind, and this is something to remember, I think it'd be cool if we actually made a video one of these days, or at least I made a video with like things to remember, is that even if you look at a set face value and you say to yourself, man, this set's going to suck. Like, let me be honest, like Obsidian, awful set. But at the end of the day, if Obsidian Flames was a set that had like terrible pull rates where it was super hard to get everything, there's no denying that just general scarcity would cause the product value to go up. That's just literally basic supply and demand. So being able to take these things into, you know, kind of thought process and realize that it should really kind of prep you for the reality of the situation, which is going forward, if general scarcity is going to prevail with these new sets, you should be anticipating a lot of these sets to perform much better out the gate than what we're used to.
Dude, Eli, I'm going to be honest with you. This thing is sound like bags. It's like insensitive to people, but I'm so hyped. Like I am more excited than I've ever been in my life for this hobby, because right now you have the perfect storm, right? If anything is going to kill Pokemon investing, it's right now. Think about this. You this whole election thing going on. You have wars going on, Japanese, yen's crashing, all that stuff. You've got the scanning technology come out. Everyone thinks that's going to kill investing. You have one of the weakest start to an eras. Everyone hated Scarlet and Violet. A lot of people said it was over. The silver borders are killing it. I'm not investing in anything past Sword and Shield. Like, you have so much against it. If in 2, 3, 4 years, all of this breaks through and everything performs like always, I will never even listen to anyone saying that sealed product doesn't always go up. It'll be the biggest, most ridiculous bunch of BS you've ever heard in your life. If it continues through all of this and you're still on the sideline saying it's all going to crash, this won't last forever, you're honestly, you're just fooling yourself at that point. Like,
it is interesting to watch. I will say, where you're like, you're looking at crypto, right? Bitcoin got slaughtered yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever, right? I remember looking at the stock market too. So everyone knows I play volleyball, right? And the shop happens to be near the Intel campus where I play volleyball. And so we have a lot of people that I play volleyball with that work at Intel. And then also being close to the shop, we have a lot of customers that work at Intel. So I'm really close with a lot of people that work at the main Chandler Intel campus. And so when the news happened, I remember, because the guy who runs our Magic Nights, he was like, "Did you hear what happened with Intel?" I'm like, "What happened?" He's like, "Stock went down 33% in one day." I'm like, "Oh my God, that's insane." Thankfully, I mean, we don't know, obviously, who's going to lose their jobs. Everyone's kind of throwing out the copium there, hoping they're going to be the one that's not going to get fired. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like one of these things where I first heard about that news and I was like, this is insane. And then I was like, I haven't checked Disney stock in a while. How's that doing? I was like, oh my God, it's at $82 a share. Holy crap, dude, that's awful.
It's everything right now, and that's what's great. It's like you see this, you go check your Pokemon boxes, they're all stable.
Yeah, that's what I was about to get into. I was like, and then I looked at Pokemon product and I was like, how's Lost Origin doing? I'm like, Lost Origin's at 212. Oh my God, it keeps going up. I was like, dude, what are people doing? Like, it's crazy looking at the Pokemon market and then you're watching the stock market. And to be fair, my investments in the stock market are what? I think I've got $600 in stocks and $1,000 in crypto. I don't have a ton of money that I put into it. All my money is in Pokemon. So, but it's still fun to watch, just because you still got skin in the game just to see how things are performing. But yeah, no, dude, it's kind of crazy to see. It's nice. At least there's some sort of rebounding that's happening. Crypto's having a good day today. Some of the stocks are kind of rebounding, which is at least nice. But ultimately, you look at that and it's still a scary witness when you see 10%. This is in crypto, man. 10% is a regular day for crypto. But when you see 10% down on stocks, dude, you're like, holy moly, this is insane. I know. I'm wondering about, I'm just, everyone's like, Intel's a buy right now, or you should get in this stock because it's a buy. But a part of me is like, dude, I still like Pokemon so much. It's hard for me to say that, especially when you have access to distribution and you're able to come in and just be able to pick it up for really cheap at a floor. That's the thing about Pokemon that I just love as an investment more than anything is I can go pick up booster boxes for $88 a box. And I can say to myself, all right, here's my floor. If it goes below that, it's probably going to be maybe high 70s, maybe low 80s. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not going to really drop past this versus stocks. If something catastrophic were to happen, I don't know where the floor would be for a lot of the investments, A
lot of talk about Intel in the chat too. This is obviously not financial advice. None of this is, but me and my dad had this conversation because he was talking about Intel and it's in my opinion, Intel is more of a boomer stock. I'm just gonna say, I don't think they've evolved the way that AMD, the way that Nvidia, these other giants in the industry. I just think they got left behind. They had it, they were the top dog, and they just they didn't evolve and they didn't do enough to get into the AI, to get into gaming, to get into anything else, and they just kept doing the same old business. And I just don't think they've done enough to really. They need to make a move to survive in the new world, in my opinion.
Oh,
just my opinion. But I mean, dude, I'm just telling you, I'm so excited right now. Just because you hear it every time new sets, new eras come, can you imagine making it through all this, say 2 years from now, all these boxes are, 130, 150, 180, maybe Paldea's 200. Could you imagine, or maybe more, and just like hearing people say, Pokemon investing is dead with this new era. Like, it's over. You can't invest in Pokemon. Too many people are doing it. All the same stuff. It's like, would you guys just give it a rest? Like, how many more tests does this market need to go through for you to just break down and say, you know what? We were wrong. Sealed products investable. It goes up over time.
Pokemon investing will be dead to me when booster boxes go to like $30.
Yeah.
Because here's my thing, and here's the most irrational thing that has never made any sense to me, right? Pokemon, the IP, is the #1 most valuable IP in the world. Not top 5, not top 10, not top 25. It is the most valuable IP. So if you take a look at Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and the Harry Potter series, it is bigger than all of those combined. And people see those as like mega giants in the industry. But Pokemon eclipses that immensely. And so for me, I look at people that say Pokemon, oh, what happens if it fails? What happens if it's speculative? Dude, if Pokemon fails, I would be way more scared for the economic like implications that would have for the rest of the international economy for just general collectibles, because it is a like strong IP owned by Nintendo, which is one of the most popular companies in the entire world. So for me, I more or less am looking at Pokemon and I'm saying to myself, the IP is so strong that it's really hard for me to say that like I have a fear of that happening, because it is literally it is the most valuable IP. So it's like, I don't know how you kind of look at that.
I don't know, man. I think I just think it's business as usual. I think we just keep doing, stay the course. I mean, I don't really have any advice anymore. It's just like it's so obvious in my mind. I don't know why we like continue to argue about the things that we've like seen proven to ourselves time and time again. I don't know. It's strange world.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like, I still watch a lot of Alpha Investments videos, and it's like, I understand why Rudy gets like, he almost like sounds like frustrated to even talk about the stuff. And I get it. Like, I get it. It's because he's been around even longer than us. It's so obvious. He's been through it so many times, and people still like want to play the doom and gloom. Like, what if this time's different game? And like, every set that comes out, the whole internet wants to hate on it for whatever reason it may be. Like, didn't have this Pokemon in it, doesn't have enough hits, whatever it may be, right? The top hit isn't good enough. It needs Gen 1 Pokemon. And time again, it proves otherwise, but we still want to fight the trend. I don't know.
So, just kind of talking about it, Pokemon, its overall IP value is valued at $92 billion. That's how much Pokemon is. And then the next most valuable is Hello Kitty at 80 million, which is kind of funny for those people that might not know that. And then Star Wars is at 65 million. So there's about a $30 million gap. Harry Potter is 30 billion. 65 billion. So there's only about a $30 billion gap, which like is a lot, but not a lot in the grand scheme of things. And then you got Harry Potter all the way down at 30 billion. Like, just it's just still, it's funny to look at the metrics. And then you look at like how much money is made just purely off of the trading cards. There's roughly around what looks to be $10 billion roughly that's made off the trading cards. Merchandise is the biggest thing. They're making about 60 billion off of merchandise. Like, it's crazy to witness. Yeah, 60 billion off of merchandise. And it looks like off of video games, they're making about 20 billion. So that last like 10 billion is from TCGs. So people are saying it's 150 billion. Am I looking at an outdated chart then? I mean, I'm curious to see where that would be for 2024 then. But yeah, this is, here's the deal, guys, right? Like, regardless, right, whether it's 150, whether it's 95, at the end of the day, like, I don't know, if you're gonna put your money somewhere, wouldn't you want it to be in the strongest IP in the entire world? Like, wouldn't that give you some semblance of confidence that, hey, maybe like this is something that has a little bit more strength behind it than it being just some fad that happened over COVID. Like, don't get me wrong, like COVID definitely exacerbated it, but at the end of the day, like the IP is still strong. That hasn't changed.
I mean, before COVID, things were moving up. They were just less exponential. Like, obviously, when more eyes and more people come into it, it's going to have larger swings. But, I mean, things were still moving up 15, 16, 17, 18, 2020. I think it all comes down to it is whatever you have more knowledge in, whatever you spend the majority of your time in that you know better than the average 99% of people out there, I think that's where is usually the best place to put your money. That's why, you see a lot of these real estate guys, they literally will tell you like, no, I own just real estate. Like, well, you're not diversified. You're not diversified. You always hear that. Like, it's like some great thing. Diversified. It's like, no, I own just real estate because that's what I know. And that's what I can get better deals on. That's what I know how to manipulate the market in a way that, makes me more money. Or people who are all in on just stocks. Like I'm just a stock guy, or like, it's like, so then when it comes to and it comes to any business, a lot of people, a lot of the top business owners in the country, they went all in on their business. They didn't have, 401ks and Roth IRAs and this and that. They went all in on their business and their rewards were great because that's what they knew. And so it's like, for some reason, when it comes to Pokemon, it's just like, ooh, I don't know. It's scary. Like, you don't want to dive in on that. It's just like, what do you mean? This is what people spend hours and hours every single day on. It's what they know. They understand how to make margin in the market. They understand, that they've seen track records of how things move. It's like, if this was anything else than just having that Pokemon name on it, it would be respected and people would agree and they'd understand. But because it has that childish Pokemon logo on it, all bets are off. It's like, ooh, that's scary. You need to diversify. You don't put a lot of your money in this. It's such a strange, weird thing that people have come up with.
Yeah. Google AI said, as of April 2024, the Pokemon franchise had an estimated revenue of 147 billion across multiple media. They pulled that up on Google AI. Yeah, no, it's I don't know, man. It's just a weird debate. It's always a weird debate. And you know what's even funnier than that? Like, I'm not going to call anyone directly out, but you hear this debate most prevalently from people that are in the space criticizing the investor space, which is always the funniest thing to me. Cause like, listen, dude, we're all in the same hobby, regardless of whether we are, a part of the video game side of things or just the content side of things or the investing side of things. We're all in the same hobby. So at the end of the day, it's the weirdest thing to get criticism from people that are like, oh, why would you invest in Pokemon? Like it's just a fad. Like, it's not something that is like risk-free and everything. I'm like, listen, yeah, there's a risk to everything. But at the end of the day, this still goes back to the original point, which is like, dude, we're all in the same hobby for a reason. And it's because we all love the brand and the IP of Pokemon, which is the number one in the world. So I said
this in my live yesterday. And like, it's also funny. It's like the people who take the bearish stance on things, they're like looked upon as being like realistic, or like, oh, they're the sophisticated bunch. They understand things better. And then anyone who's like bullish, you're seeing is just like, oh, you're a wild, crazy, over the top optimist. Like, you actually think this stuff's going to continue? A child's card game. It's like they have all these like phrases to like put you down and make you sound stupid. But it's just like, why is it that the bearish position is always like seen as so smart and elegant and sophisticated and wise, but then like the bullish position is always like knocked down? It's so weird, man. I can't figure it out.
So here's the important question, right? I guess we have to ask ourselves. And I already have an answer. So I don't know if you want me to go first or whether you want to go. But if hypothetically an economic, something happens, right, where you start to feel it trickle into the collectibles market and specifically Pokemon, what do you think is going to be hit the most? And what do you think is going to be affected the most? I feel like I have an answer, but I'll let you go first if you want to.
Go for it. Eli? Guys, we lost Eli.
No, you didn't lose me. I thought I lost you.
Oh, you're good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, your screen froze. I got really confused. You wanted me to go, you said?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here's what I think. I think that what's going to get hurt the most are going to be items that are higher, like way farther away from their floor, and more specifically, more vintage product. Because what I find very interesting, and I've heard this so prevalently within the sports card community. So I'm not huge into sports, right? So I'm only listening to what people have told me. But apparently during sports, they had a 70s and 80s era where a lot of cards went through what they like to call the wax era, where basically all these cards that were seen as vintage because they were older ended up being seen as more valuable because of that. But the reality of the situation was there was way more in supply than people realized of that available product. And of course, with like the evolution and appreciation of the way in which, sports cards collecting has been, you start to see like a devaluation of a lot of these older cards, whereas the newer product is now much more valuable. And for me, I don't think it's a hot take to say that Pokemon would start to potentially get into that exact same thing. Um, and for people that are asking like what junk wax means, wax is like a term that's used in sports cards a lot for like junk slabs of like PSA graded. That's just kind of a slang term that people use, like sevens, eights, and even nines for some people if a card's that high in supply. So it just basically means that there's like a lot of available like graded supply of those specific cards. Um, and so my thing, I guess I kind of asked the question on is, do we realistically look at where the economy could go and say to ourselves, like, how is this going to affect vintage in the same light? Because realistically speaking, like, you went to multiple card shows. I went to my first card show not too long ago, and the biggest like thing that we've kind of heard the most is that WotC product seems to be available. Like, I didn't see any sealed product of realistically Sun and Moon booster boxes, Sun and Moon loose packs. Like, XY was also pretty scarce. But like when it came to WotC era product, there was plenty of WotC era available product. And at the end of the day, like, although there is going to be a value to WotC era product and there is going to be a value to like vintage era product, you're going to see a lot of like collections come out of the woodworks, hypothetically speaking, and people are going to want to offload that because they're going to need some form of liquidity. And it's going to be the product that has the highest amount of supply that's going to be hit the most, right? And at the end of the day, like, don't get me wrong, you could easily see like Evolving Skies take a dip because there is an argument that it's overinflated. But ultimately, when you look at it, it's really going to be the single cards, I think, that are going to be hurt the most because there's such a higher supply of singles compared to sealed product as it is more deflationary. So you could see like a correction, but I don't know. I just feel like looking at ultra modern product, knowing there's a floor and most of it starts out at the wholesale price, it's a hard situation for me to think that isn't going to be the items that people look at and they're already like 2x above what the original wholesale price is, and then just offloading those at 30-40% off because they just need the money quick and they're just trying to dump it at their local card shop or make a huge lot and sell it online.
Okay, so hold on. I didn't get an answer. So like, give the short answer. So what do you think is going to be affected the worst?
I think what's going to be affected the worst is I think vintage is going to be hit really hard. I think, honest to God, vintage is going to be hit hard. And then any of the singles in the ultra modern era that have like a really high supply and are extremely inflated. And I guess you could say that with some of the sealed product, but realistically, I don't think it's going to be as crazy as people think. I think it's mainly going to be vintage.
All right, so here we go. We're gonna get into the cabal conversations. So all Pokemon in English went through a massive boom during COVID, right? And funny enough, the modern stuff is what came back and it has done very well since. A lot of the vintage hasn't. What has changed since then? The content creators that were pumping vintage the hardest have mostly, for the most part, gone away. You know, a lot of the people who were showing off their vintage, talking about how rare, how scarce it was, trying to give the illusion that because of these things it was so valuable and everyone would want it because it was the first. It was 25 years ago. All this new stuff. After that content kind of went away, after people like my channel, other channels like mine who have done a very good job presenting the facts, the data, the actual financials. After enough that information got out there, people started to stray away from just the talk and they went towards the numbers. And so because of that, we've seen, English or not just English, Japanese, a lot of the modern product performed very well. Now, during that time, a lot of that product, because it's also marketed by Pokemon, it's not just content creators talking about it like Vintage, it's marketed by Pokemon. Pokemon is dumping money into throwing games out, throwing ads out about the products, advertising everywhere. So tons of it is getting opened, meaning there's less and less and less of it. I mean, like you said, it's harder and harder to find an XY Sun and Moon box. Sword and Shield will probably be the next box to start get scarce. Like base set, Rebel Clash are already kind of scarce depending on where you look. So yeah, I agree. I do think the middle range Vintage, I would say like 95, 98% of Vintage will get hurt, especially the widely available stuff. Like you said, the lower grades, the unlimited, even like the first edition stuff that's lower grades. A lot of the mid era, like Pokemon no one cares about, is going to get affected hard. I think that the top end, the stuff the whales go after, like the trophy cards, the Japanese exclusive promos, the high end first edition, the graded 9s and 10s of like first ed base, the shinings, crystals, gold stars, all that stuff. I think that will hold up relatively well because those people really usually are not going to be affected by an economic downturn the way that, the regular people are. And then, yeah, I do actually see it could stall modern. Like you said, people could take profits on things like, it could hurt things like Sword and Shield, maybe that people have profits on. That could stagnate, could go down a little bit with some supply. I don't think Scarlet Violet's had enough growth yet for people to really dump. Unless people are just feeling really, financial hardships. And then Sun and Moon XY, it's already so scarce. Like anyone holding that stuff probably isn't in a position where they need to sell either. And then, like you said, yeah, the high quantity slabs that are out there that people feel if they sell it, they'll be able to easily find it again in the future. That could be affected. So yeah, I think the high availability slabs, maybe some Sword and Shield boxes, and definitely like Vintage and mid era stuff that's like not high grades, not hard to get, not popular Pokemon. That's where I see the worst thing could be affected.
I wanted to clarify something real quick because I misspoke. When I was referring to wax, I wasn't referencing like wax meaning PSA cards, but I was more referencing that a lot of the sealed product that was being broken down was also being graded with PSA and they turned into junk slabs. So yeah, I understand wax is more referencing to sealed products. So I apologize for just misspeaking, but I just want to clarify that real quick. So, and you can easily Google that too. So, but yeah, no, I mean, it's just simple. It's just supply. It's just supply. That's ultimately what it is at the end of the day. So for me, when I look at like what is going to be hurt, I say to myself, all right, there's not a crazy amount of Diamond and Pearl out there. There's not a crazy amount of like Sun and Moon. At least it feels like it. Like Sun and Moon product feels like it's so hard to find nowadays, which is so weird considering it's such a new generation. Like,
well, you were around for Sun and Moon. I remember it like it was yesterday. Coming off of Evolutions and Sun and Moon print runs. So guys, I know you're told Sun and Moon was lower printed than it is now. At the time, I was there. Okay. If you go back and watch YouTube videos from 8 years ago, everyone was talking about how overprinted Sun and Moon is compared to what XY was and how that wasn't going to be investable. It's the same thing every era. So at the time, Sun and Moon product was everywhere. There was too much of it. They were they were reprinting too many sets. And now it's funny we say things like it's hard to find.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember Burning Shadows came out, and this is why I have such a hate for Burning Shadows and why I think it's one of the worst sets of all time, especially growing up around it, trying to open it. There was an insane amount of supply of Burning Shadows, and yet it was still ridiculously hard to pull the Charizard. And then if you did pull it, the print quality was atrocious. So, like, not only was it an insult to injury because oh, I see a rainbow. Is it the Charizard? Oh, just kidding. It's not. It's some other garbage card I don't care about. So I had to deal with that. But then I also as well had to deal with the fact that even the garbage card that I pulled was literally one that was in atrocious condition. And so like, yeah, there was a lot of available product during the Sun and Moon era that a lot of people don't realize. I think the only one that I can really recall was Tag Team was a little bit on the like lower supply. Tag Team didn't have a ton. There was like a small reprint that did happen for Unified Minds and Unbroken Bonds.
Dude,
That
small,
yeah, it was small. It wasn't that big. I mean, it was
unified and unbroken around.
yeah. I mean, because you had right before like COVID really took effect, a reprint that came for them, and it did tank the prices quite a bit. Like the price went from like $200 a box to like all the way down to like 110, 120. And so there was a price point in which it did correct at where you could have taken advantage. Cosmic didn't really see that because Cosmic reprint got canceled because of COVID. And that's why you saw a lot of the packs that they were reprinting mid reprint get thrown into collection boxes. So it's like, realistically speaking, first half Sun and Moon era, a lot of supply out there. And second half, not as much, but still, somewhat available, right? Like Unified Minds, Unbroken Bond, like I said, it did drop to 110 after it ran up to 200. So for me, I look at that and I say like, it's so high up at this point from how quickly it's run up and so like scarce still. I could see like a correction still where it like goes down like 20%. Like, don't get me wrong, with a lot of sealed product, it could still tank. But realistically speaking, I feel as if what's going to get hit the most is WotC product. There's just so much WotC product. Like if I look at sellers on, Instagram posts that I follow, like because there's vintage sellers that I follow because I'm a Diamond and Pearl fan, WotC is always posted like every day. It's never a day that goes by where they don't have available access to WotC, which is such a weird thing to think about, right? Because you're like, it's the oldest. Wouldn't that mean it's the most scarce? But yeah, I don't know, man. I just see that being hurt. And I can see Evolving Skies getting hit, right? But like, it's not like, oh my God, Evolving's going to 100. Like, no,
I mean, here's the
Evolving
thing, dude.
will
Like,
go to like 500, 400  maybe. Like, that's still super expensive. Like, you know what I mean?
but like, here's the thing, dude. It's like, you can point to every. Put it this way: if you could turn your brain off and know that you didn't grow up when you grew up in this hobby, like think about kids nowadays, right? And newcomers to the hobby that don't know the history and all that. Dude, if you put WotC Hollows next to, let's say, like XY Fates Collide Alakazam, and then next to like a, I don't know, a Cosmic Eclipse, a tag team, and then next to an Altar, then next to an SIR, I mean, it's not even like comparable, right? And so it's like, it's so hard to get people to care about these cards that are just, unfortunately, just so outdated at this point. And then expect people to pay the absorbent amounts for them way more than just getting like every nice card they want from Modern. It's just like, it's going to be a harder and harder to sell after, kind of that whole rarity scarcity mantra was repeated so many times. Like people just aren't listening to that anymore.
It's hard, man. I think what makes it even harder too is there is a generational divide between the opinions of WotC. Like you inherently have people, and here's what I want people to also understand. I'm not saying WotC is just dead. Like WotC will still have inherent demand. There is people that are huge into Gen 1. There's no denying that, right? 151 for what it's worth as a set. I know this might get a hot take. I think it's a good set for Scarlet and Violet era, but it's not like an insane set in the same way that you look at like a Crown Zenith or an Evolving Skies. I think the reason why it's done so well is because it's centered around 151, like the first Pokemon. The people that have come into the shop that have gotten 151, it's the people that were like, yeah, I'm not really that crazy into like the new product, but this one I really like because I'm a huge Gen 1 guy. That's been the most prevalent thing that I've kind of see with a lot of the demand. And so it's able to appeal to both bases, like both the modern and also the like more WotC era collector. And so for me,
but one thing you have to add in, dude, like the WotC era collector, the reason that's always available is the WotC era collector is they want the pristine, the best of the best. They want 10s. Like they want,
yeah.
So like they're not interested in 6, 7s, 8s. Like they're not interested in raw. And so like that's why it has a lot harder time to sell.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I mean, I guess the point that I was going to kind of just lean into was you've got a large amount of people that don't really care for a lot of the WotC era product in the same way as the people that grew up with Gen 1. Like people that grew up with Gen 1 love Gen 1, right? But at the end of the day, I didn't grow up with Gen 1. I grew up with Gen 3 and Gen 4. That's what I grew up with. That's what I enjoy.
If you look at Gen 3, Gen 4, like the the cards that are holding the best and they're going to be the most popular species of that era in the highest grades. Like once you get down into like raw copies that are like near mint light play, there's just like there's no interest, there's no sales, and it's just like that's just kind of how it is. Like whereas modern, you have people that like buy all of it because it's in demand, it's popular, it's marketed. When there's a very small segment that are going to buy those older cards. It's the people who are chasing that level of rarity and scarcity, that history and all that. And unfortunately, those people are the ones with like large, bankrolls, and they want the pristine copies. They're not interested in your PSA 8, Bioplume, right? Like it's just.
Yeah, most of the people I've had conversations with, when I ask them like what their favorite vintage era is, it's always been Gold Stars. That's what I've heard so often. Gold Stars have been the one thing that I hear time and time again that people are like, yeah, I really like Gold Stars. Those were my favorite. Like it's very rarely, unless someone specifically was like, oh, I'm a huge Gen 1 fan, where they were like, I really love the base set like hollows. Like there's an appreciation for the Pokemon themselves. Like Charizard is obviously extremely important, but like looking at it, you're just like saying to yourself, there's not really the same like charm as it was for when it first came out, because you have just several years later the EX Gold Star era, which has way more flash to it and way more. I mean, dude, so many. It's funny just thinking as I'm talking. I'm like, dude, so many people love Gold Star cards. So many people love Gold Star cards, and they're sick. I mean, it really was something that kind of changed the way in which you looked at the Pokemon card art designs, especially since shiny Pokemon in general have always been so popular. So they just feel so much more appreciated for the shiny Pokemon as a whole, and then the art designs as a whole. So having both of those things along with it also being extremely scarce, like I don't know, there's a lot of appreciation for it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, don't buy a bunch of penny stocks in because you can buy a bunch of shares of them. Buy like a few shares of the tried and true companies that are going to perform well. Same thing with these cards. Like I understand, like being a collector, you want to like catch them all, but like investment wise, if you're wanting to move into like vintage investments and mid-era investments, get as high of grade you can of the most popular species. Like, and I wouldn't spread it all over into all this different stuff, because it's just stuff that no one's going to want, and you're not going to get like high trading. People aren't going to like say, okay, yeah, I'll give you 85% for that. But people will give you 85% for those high value, top dollar cards, because they know they're easy to sell. It's what everyone wants. And so that's kind of my advice for the vintage thing. Save up, get a grail. Don't get, 10 cards that are all cheap because you want to, have a bunch of vintage cards. Because they're always going to be cheap.
Well, and my thing is too, like, and maybe you'll disagree with me on this, but like, that's not to say that, oh, Gold Stars are pure gold, therefore if you invest in them, they're not going to go down if something were to happen in the economy. Like I think Gold Stars could still go down. I mean, you saw a huge run up with specifically some of the Gold Stars, and although some of them did, stay strong and hold, there was still a decent amount of them that did make some correction. Now, if you looked at the correction they made compared to some of the other like cards within the era, WotC got slapped so much harder than a lot of the Gold Star cards. So for me, like I look at it in that regard, is I'm less looking at it from the perspective of like, hey, which one's going to continue to make new all-time highs, and more of like, hey, which one is potentially going to hedge the overall risk, where if something were to happen, it's going to hold its value the strongest. And that's where for me, sealed product in the Gold Star era, I mean, you've got that double factor where it just is deflationary. As more gets opened, the more valuable it becomes. And so although you can still go buy Gold Stars and they're still going to hold well, I mean, buying sealed product from that like EX Gold Star era, especially for like the high demand sets, it just feels so much stronger to just be able to make that kind of general play.
You know what's funny about all that stuff too? It's like the biggest detractor from it is actually also the biggest positive at the same time is liquidity. It's like finding someone that can, one, just afford that stuff, and then two, that agreeing on a price, because so few of it actually has sales data. And so it's like, it can be bad in terms of liquidity wise, but it could also work in your favor if you have something and that whale wants it. It's like, well, I've seen sales in the last couple of years that have been at 10 grand. And you're like, That's cool. Mine's 15. Well, can we make a deal? Like, yeah, the deal is I have it and no one else does right now. Do you want it? Like, so it's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of how it can be.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. I have a in the shop, I just have it displayed, right? So I sent in a submission for some of like the platinum Pokemon packs I've opened, and I have the shiny Swablu, the reverse hollow shiny Swablu, and it got a 10, and it's a pop 4. And so literally like the last sold listing for it was like around $1,000, give or take. And that was like 2.5 years ago. Cause it's so rare, right? And I'm gonna be honest, like I'm not really trying to sell it, but like people ask me in the shop, like, how much is it going for? I'm like, $2,000. And like, $2,000, where'd you get that number? I'm like, out of my butt. I'm like, I'm one of 4 people. If you would like to find this card in a 10, I implore you to do so because you're not going to find it. So if you want it, it's $2,000. And the only reason why I threw that number out because it's a number that I'm like, I don't want to throw this card away. But if someone gives me this specific number, then I feel good enough like with selling it at that price. I'm like, all right, I can try and get this card back again another time. Like, it's not like it's not possible, but it's so scarce that it's like, dude, this is a hard card. I mean, I remember there's one time over like a year ago, I got a Rampardos holo card, and there was someone that was trying to master set all of the holos from Rising Rivals. And most holos for Rising Rivals go for like $400 or $500. I sold it for 900. And that was because it was a pop 1 holo. I was the only one that had the Rampardos. And so I charged double what the usual holo rate would go for, because at the end of the day, like, no one else could get it. I was the only one that had it. So you can get those premiums still on those low pop cards.
Yeah. And like, so one of the things to think about too is like, you want to be set up well financially if you're going to play in that market, because, especially going into times like now, this is like the worst time you'd want to be selling something like that, because here's the thing. Even though like there's whales out there that can afford them, they know what's going on, and they know if someone's selling right now, they're probably willing to take less because they need to get out of it for some reason. The whales want their money going other places, right? If the stock market, crypto, all this stuff's falling, they want to be able to buy there. They want to be able to, maybe buy out other businesses to like grow their businesses. Like the big people that are doing well, they do better during recessions because they build and grow because they have money to play with. And so if you're moving into these types of whale type cards and products, you want to be set up good enough to where you can weather the storms when times are bad, and then you can sell when times are good and get those top dollars. I mean, that's why you see these fine art auctions where a piece of art will go for like $5 million, and then like 3 years later it'll sell for 12 million. It's like, well, the last comp was 5 million. It's like we just said, well, where are you going to find another one? And so like that's the mode you need to be in to play in those markets, because if you come into financial hardships and you got a case of Evolving Skies, just start auctioning the boxes. They're going to go relatively around what market is. You're going to get basically all your money out of it. If you need to get out of one of those grail type cards for 10, 20, 30 grand, dude, good luck. Like if you need to get it fast, good luck. So yeah, you definitely need to have a plan of attack and like have a different approach going into those kind of items.
Yeah. Do you have any questions that you want to take? We've been going for already an hour now.
Let's take them.
Want to start jumping into that section of today's video. But yeah, guys, first and foremost, if you have any questions you want us to answer, make sure you drop them now. But outside of that, once again, really appreciate you guys stopping by, watch the videos. If you're interested in supporting us, leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, and then check out the wholesale program. Get access to Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and so much more at wholesale prices. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to message me or Alex on Discord about it. Alex
your
average
player said it's funny that your 401k will most likely be more hurt than your Pokemon sealed investments in a global recession.
I know. I don't want to get into one of these like tangent topics because like we do it from time to time, but bro, I'm just getting to the point where like there's so many institutional ways people are like saying that you should go about investing your money, and it just feels like a lot of them are scams. Like, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of the way in which you were like brought up upon how you were supposed to, invest your money. Like, this is the way to do it. Like, I don't know, man.
I'll take it one step further and get even more conspiratorial. almost every way in which you're taught through school, through like by the government, like every like path you're supposed to take in life seems to be like the worst path, like the wrong path.
Yeah.
I mean, it just does. It's kind of like all built to make you this like, you know, slave to the system, to like be a cog in the machine to keep it running. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I kind of just go in and I ask myself the question, because I'm 25, right? Like, I'm not as old as I may think I am.
What does that mean?
God, my body hurts all the time. That's what that means.
He's old and broken, everyone.
Dude, here's my thing. When you start to see people get drafted into the NFL and they're younger than you, it hits like a truck. Like, dude, wow, what am I doing with my life? Why am I not? You know, it's dumb. It's dumb. I'm just being facetious. But like, here's the deal. I do ask myself the question: will I ever see my Social Security? Like, realistically speaking, bro, you look at Social Security constantly about to go bankrupt and constantly being extended as the debt just keeps getting rolled and rolled. I'm like, dude, am I really ever going to see my Social Security? Absolute scam, dude. I'm sorry. But like,
Well, in Dub's edition, to clarify, I wasn't saying like if you get certain jobs, you're a cog in the system. I wasn't meaning it that way. I mean like everything they like tell you to go about your life, like, you know, from going to college to getting these certain jobs, to investing your money here, to spending it on this, to saving it in banks, like to, it's like everything like they try to line out for like, you know, the accepted way to live. Like even like food, like remember like being in school, like the food pyramid, the way they tell you how to eat, like everything is just like kind of built to keep you like average, not really excelling, just kind of like getting by, you know, like, I mean, even getting like crazier with it, like this is where my mind goes, but it's like, you know, you notice how almost every car manufacturer, like except supercars, hypercars, like they're all like kind of getting to look similar. Now they're building all these like row homes everywhere. It's like, it's almost like we're going to a society where like everyone has the same house. We all have the same car. We all go do our job for the same amount of time. And it's just like, everything's just kind of becoming like robotic. And it's just like, that's just kind of seems like where the world wants to go. It's strange.
have you seen the like new kind of food pyramid that they're more or less pushing, or
No.
like the food plate that they call it?
What is it now?
So like it's
Lucky Charms.
well, oh dude, okay. Oh god, I don't want to piss people off. Did you know that the lady that is the head of like the health department in the United States was also one of the representing members on the board of Ozempic? I'm just saying, like, I'm not like trying to like get political here, but you gotta ask yourself a question: is there motivations here?
Oh
Yeah,
my
dude.
God. Hey,
Yeah.
Abraham had an actual question. He said, oh, hold on. Buff Sushi did too. Don't know if this is a dumb question, but would you say it's not smart to sell alt V Maxes now like Gengar that are dropping very much?
That's a good question. Honestly, I'm looking at it as buy opportunities for me personally. Like, I've already been like super high on buying alt arts in the shop as it is, but like now that prices are changing, it doesn't really like deter me in any way more than anything. Like, I just I just look at alt arts as a whole, and I understand that the hotness now and that could change at any time, but it's so hard to say that the art isn't going to be appreciated in the future. Like, I look at cards like the Gengar, I look at cards like the Moonbryon, and I look at these other cards that have high demand. And sure, you can make an argument that maybe in like the short term they could crash really hard because there is a lot of them in supply. But at the end of the day, I just look at it as an opportunity for me to just dollar cost average, pick up more, because I think they're going to do well. And like for me personally in the shop, dude, we go through so many alt arts. It's fantastic. I get so excited doing alt art collections. And I'm just buying a bunch of them and sending them in for grading because they're just so good. Like they're just so good. And like I understand certain alt arts, it might not make sense. Like Leafeon's a good example, Glaceon's a good example where you're like shouldn't send it in for grading because the PSA 10 is almost the same price as the raw. But there's still other ones where you've got like the Gengar, where there is a value to. I mean, the Giratina is another one, right? Where there is a value to be made on like if you can get your hands on one that is gradable and send it in for a 10 and get your value even with the prices correcting, but ultimately still taking advantage of that kind of dip. Because like we said before, right? Or maybe I said this, I feel like you said this as well, Alex. I see alt arts for Sword and Shield just following what Sun and Moon did, right? Where Sun and Moon prices went up like crazy, then they corrected, and then they rebounded again and are testing all-time highs. Like this is kind of what I see is going to happen with Sword and Shield. They went up like crazy. A lot of them are correcting, and then eventually, when they kind of see their floor, they're going to go up and just go all-time highs.
Yeah, I mean, you can look back to XY right now, like it's having a surge, like, and it's like every era. There's going to be a handful of cards that always do well, and then like most of them just will kind of like fall off, or they'll do somewhat good, maybe down. And so it's like you look back at XY, like you can look at the Gengar full art from Phantom Forces or the Silver Dialga. You can look at like the Alakazam from Phase Collide, some of the breakthrough Mewtwo's, like the Rayquaza from I forget either. I think Ancient Origins and Roaring Skies. But they're all doing extremely well. Like the tag teams, like Eli said, they're doing extremely well again. Now it's not every card in the era, right? Like you go back through the whole era, like you got the Shining Mewtwo, the Mewtwo, card. You got like the Charizard GX Rainbow. You have some other cards, but it's like it's not every card. And so I would expect Altars to be as similar. I mean, I think most will do well. Like there'll be some of the weird species that became Altars, maybe not perform as well. People won't really care about as much. Same thing with the trainer galleries. You know, the top ones, Pikachu, Rayquaza, like Umbreon, Sylveon, but like there'll be some that people just don't care about as much and they'll kind of trail off. But your question, Gengar, that's one of the strong ones, man. That's one of the strongest Pokemon in all Pokemon. If I was going to keep a few Altards, that would probably be one of them. Yeah,
it's been performing so well. It's got a really cool, unique art design to it too. And it's a strong character. Like it's got everything going for it. Like, oh, you want to hear something just devastating? In the shop, the most popular product that we've sold the most, I would say, for single or like loose packs, Fusion. We've sold so much Fusion, insane amount of Fusion. Probably like I want to say at least 1,000 packs in the shop of Fusion.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have yet to pull the Gengar yet. We pulled the Sandaconda 7 times in the shop.
Dude, we get this warped view of like, because pop reports are high, people like don't see it as hard to pull. Like, they don't see it as rare, but it's like when you actually start opening these packs, you realize how hard these things are actually to pull.
Well, it's weird too, because like,
but that tells you how much product has been open. Like this is a perfect example. Like talk about how much product Pokemon prints. Just going through how hard these are to pull. Multiply that by how many boxes it would take to pull as many as of the population. I'm talking the whole population. So look at like the 10s, the 9s, 8s, 7s, any raw, like multiply that population by the amount of packs it would take to pull that. We've probably went through a good amount of the sealed that was ever created. Just saying.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember early pulling the Gengar a couple times thinking like, oh, it shouldn't be that hard for us to pull it again. But dude, I mean, we've pulled the Espeon, like that's cool and all, but maybe it's just the run of the luck because 7 Sandacondas is ridiculous. I just want to put that out there. Pulling 7 Sandacondas is stupid. Like that's so rude. Like really, like 7 Sandacondas. That's our most pulled. That is literally our most pulled Altar we've gotten. We pulled 2 in. I remember because I've been there for like most of the packs because we opened them in the shop. 2 Inteleons, 7 Sandacondas. We pulled the regular Mew once. We pulled the Rainbow Mew twice. We've pulled the Espeon once. And like I think like a couple other miscellaneous Altards here and there that are like not worth a crazy amount of money. Like the Genesect, I think we pulled that one once or twice, and like the Greedent once or twice. But Sandaconda like 7 times, man. It's the most disrespectful thing because it's literally so freaking cheap. It's like a $3 card. But
hey, Abraham Sanchez, respond to this. People always ask us, what are your guys' tier list for main SMV like sets at the moment? What do you mean? Like in terms of like what I think the best sets cards are, or in terms of the best investment? Because those are 2 very different questions, right? Because the best sets aren't always going to be the best investments, unfortunately.
Say the question again.
He wants to know what our tier list is for main Sun and Scarlet and Violet so far.
I just wanted to.
I mean, we can just answer it, and we can just pick a way to answer it. Like, do you want to say best investment or best set overall?
All right. So number 1.
What is this, investment or just best set?
So Obsidian, number one set and best investment, bar none.
Absolutely.
Worst
Agree.
one's Twilight. Worst Twilight sucks. Alex sucks. You guys don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's a good question, Abraham. Oh, look at him. He's so strong. He works out, guys. Look at those muscles of Twilight.
No, I'll give a real tier list. My real tier list is so I'm gonna say like investment wise, what I think is gonna perform the best. I think it's gonna be Twilight. I mean, not Twilight. You could say Twilight so many times.
There we go.
No, I think it's gonna be Paldea. I think Paradox is gonna do extremely well. And then
over Temporal.
It's probably Temporal and Twilight is gonna be my next ones, and then it's gonna go down to probably Base and then Obsidian last.
Do you think Paradox will do better than Temporal? Is what you're saying?
Dude, I think Paradox. Well, I know it's the second most stacked set next to Paldea. I just think it's so deep that the amount and it's got enough SIRs that want to be chased after. Like it has enough popular species of Pokemon. The IRs are good. So I really honestly do I like Temporal's cards. I think like the top hits better, but I just think it has less of them, in my opinion.
I honestly agree. I think Paradox is so slept on. I don't understand it. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't like Temporal as much as other people do. I don't know. It's not a bad set. I don't want to hate on Temporal, but I like Paradox more than I do Temporal personally. I understand, like, maybe people like the Morty card because of the Gengar, but I just really like the Roaring Moon. I like the Roaring Moon a ton, and I love the Groudon. I'm such a sucker for that Groudon card. And so for me, I just really appreciate the Paradox cards. The cards in Paradox Rift, to be specific, because I just think they're so cool. Like, I really do love the Altaria card. I already mentioned the other two that I like. You also have some valuable IR cards that are in the set past the Groudon with like the Steelix. But like, I don't know. I can understand the appreciation of the Paradox Pokemon from Temporal. Like, I can totally see why it's a good set and why people enjoy it. Obviously, I think the Raging Bolt's a sick card, and the Gouging Fire one I also like. But for me, like, past maybe some of like the IRs from the Ghastly line, it's not one that I'm like looking at as like this insane set that I think is that far apart from Paradox. I would put them relatively close in my mind to General Appeal. It just comes up to like which one you prefer more. Obviously, there's much more value if you look at it from like a card value perspective in Temporal compared to Paradox. But ultimately, for me, I just enjoy the set Paradox as a whole. But that's just a preference, right? Do I think that there's an argument that, you know, Paradox could... I mean, have you watched the price of Temporal, by the way, compared to Paradox?
It's what do you mean compared to Paradox?
They're Temporal boxes have gone down in price.
Yeah.
And Paradox prices, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just all focused on Twilight right now. I mean, everyone can deny it as much as they want, but I mean, I told Eli, like on my last Thursday night stream, I open packs. We went through 2 cases of Twilight Masquerade, 2 cases in one night. And I'm not like, I know I'm very aware of like my size. I'm not a big streamer. I'm not a big YouTuber. And so I can only imagine what like the big guys do on like Whatnot or TikTok or YouTube, Twitch. Like I can only imagine how much of this product is getting open per day. If someone like me is going through 2 cases, I can't imagine how much people love that set.
Honestly, I'm not.
I like that. I mean,
I think I'm there. Because Paldea Evolve's my favorite. It's not even close. Paldea Evolved is my favorite, right?
Yeah, the only
At
reason I
least-
put Paradox up there is because like the current prices. Like I think Paradox could outperform Paldea maybe in the next like time frame because of Paldea's already like 140 a box and Paradox is still 100. It's the only reason I was thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I hate Obsidian with a burning passion. I hate any Charizard set with a burning passion. That's my thing, man. Is like I hate.
No, dude, Paldean Face is a good set.
Okay, let me back that up. I hate all of the Charizard sets that are part of the first 3 that come out with every new generation. Obsidian Flames, Burning Shadows, Darkness Ablaze, like all these first 3 sets that always ends up being a Charizard set since the XY era. I just can't do it. Like actually not even since the isn't even the EX era there was a Charizard? Dude, actually now that I think about it, did Black and White had a Charizard in the first 3 sets? I think Black and White is the only one that didn't, if I'm correct. I could be wrong. Because I know
I can't remember.
You can't remember?
They put the Charizard in the back of the era. I don't know about the beginning.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. No, Secret Wonders was earlier or later. I'm trying to remember from. I think it was. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But anyway, I'm just over the early Charizard sets. I hate the early Charizard sets. I think a lot of them suck. So for me, it's easy for me to put Obsidian in the back. Paldea Evolved first. I'm just asking myself, do I like Twilight? No, I do like Paradox Rift more than I like Twilight. Honestly, like I do. But that's just because I love the Groudon. Dude, I'm such a sucker for Groudon. I grew up with Gen 3. It's a personal preference, but I think the card's also sick. I mean, Alex knows it. I was calling that card to go up like crazy. Like I haven't shut up about it and how much
I mean,
love
dude, I think people just like they get caught up in like recency bias and they get a little overhyped. Like, guys, let's be honest. Like, why is Carmine such a huge hit? Like, is that really better than all the other waifus that have come out? Like, why is Perrin up there so much? Like, I'm with you on Greninja, great card, hard to pull. I'm with you on Eevee. Like, I'm with you on some of them, but it's like some of these cards, they're a little overvalued because of the hype of the set right now. That's what's making the set look so strong is that everything's high. I think when things level out, if they do, I think like there'll be the actual really sought after hits that'll stay high. I think some of these are going to fall off. Like it just, they're not that cool. Like why is Perrin or Carmine or some of these other cards that cool? Are they really? I don't know.
I mean, it's waifu. Waifu cards do well.
There's tons of waifus, right? There's waifus in every set, right?
Right. But that's the thing is that's why we know they're going to be valuable. I mean, it's just kind of what we're seeing, obviously, with Shrouded.
Now we have Abraham Sanchez saying that he's in the minority that believes Twilight is better than Paldea. Wow.
Hold on. Wait. Where?
It's right under where I replied to Anthony Williams. So
that I believe Twilight's better than Paldea. Yeah, I don't agree with that, but it's personal preference, man. I'm never gonna hate someone for saying that. I can understand appreciating Twilight, but I think the reason why I love Paldea so much is because I am a huge fan of their legendary Pokemon, right? I still haven't played.
Yeah, there's the 4 legendaries and the 3 starters are all.
I love
the starter lines.
I love the Chien-Pao card. I love the Chien-Pao card. Like,
I mean, and that's on top. That's on top of the Magikarp, the Tyranitar, the Raichus, and the Iono. Like, it's great. It's stacked.
It's a great set. I know. It's so good.
Yeah, it's stacked, man.
Cornhusker asked, "Are so well done."
Oh, Cornhusker asked Eli, "Do you hate the Zard because of the art or just Zard fatigue?"
I hate this set because there's nothing foundational about it past the Zard. That's the reason why I hate the sets. You look at Darkness Ablaze and you say to yourself, is there really anything past the set? You look at Burning Shadows and say, is there anything past the set? You look at Obsidian Flames, is there anything past the set? Like, there are all these sets that foundationally are just Charizard or nothing. I hate Champion's Path for the same reason. Like,
and it's the worst. I mean, okay, I guess that's like, it's opinion, but it's kind of the worst Charizard out of 151 and Paldean.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
I feel like the 151 Charizard and the Paldean Face Charizard are better than the Obsidian Flame Charizard. So it's like, you're buying into the worst set for the weakest Charizard in the era. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, this is gonna sound like such a hot take. I know I'm probably gonna get so much crap for this. Obsidian Flames feels like a juiced up Flashfire.
Flash
Like,
fire.
yeah, because if you look at, I know obviously like hindsight's 2020. Everyone looks back at the set and you compare it. Like megas are hot now, and so people really do love megas now. But like looking back on it, when Flashfire first came out as a set, it's a set that had multiple Charizards, and you had the different versions of the Charizard you could get. And Obsidian Flames is just a different variation of that, where you're not just chasing one Charizard, but you're chasing multiple different Charizards, right? You can get the regular Charizard EXSIR, you get the EX, Gold Charizard, you could get the standard EX, Terra type Charizard. Like there's like multiple different variations of the Charizard you can pull within the sets. Whereas like with Flashfire, it's the exact same thing, right? Like it's, can I get the Mega Charizard EX version? Can I get the Mega EX Charizard secret version? Can I get the Full Art EX Charizard? Can I get the Mega EXY Charizard? Like it was basically the same kind of general theory concept. Obviously, looking back on it, we're like, oh, this is so much cooler because we love megas now and megas are sick. But like it's kind of funny to see because megas when they first came out weren't as like hyped as they are now. Like there
Yeah,
is
I
an
mean,
inherent appreciation for megas that have allowed that perspective to change. And maybe that's just me, but like my opinions on a lot of things usually don't stem from like me looking at it from today's perspective, but it stems from growing up during that perspective and knowing like how people felt about something and then comparing that to how it's aged over time.
yeah, Mozzie said that it's Burning Shadows over Obsidian Flames over Darkness Blaze. Yeah, I agree with that. The reason the reason Burning Shadows holds good value and the reason like I like that set is because at least it has that god tier rarity. Like that Charizard in a PSA 10 is the most expensive Charizard in the entire Sun and Moon era. Like at least you have that chase at that whatever $400 or $500 card, multiple $1,000 card in a PSA 10. It's like Darkness Blaze. PSA 10 Charizard, like $80. I have one for sale right now. Obsidian Flames, PSA 10 Charizard, it's like under $200 now. It's like then the raw copies are worth like $20, $40. Like, so even if you pull the top chase Zard in the entire set, like there's no value, there's no chase. So at least Burning Shadows gives you a chase.
I mean, that is true. If you're looking at it from that perspective, that is true. I guess even then, the thing is I look at the set, and even with that all being said, it's still one of the worst performing booster boxes in the Sun and Moon era, right? Even Ultra Prisms perform better. Which
Ultra Prism's on fire.
or sorry, not Ultra Prism. Sorry. Forbidden Light. Sorry. Whew, I almost upset people there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ultra Prism is a great set. No,
Yeah,
Forbidden
Light,
Forbidden Light,
Guardians Rising base set are right down there with Burning.
Yeah, because Forbidden Light, I mean, it's not like a terrible set by any means, but
no,
like
it's awful.
You think it's that bad?
I remember when I opened it once on the channel and I like dug through it to look at the hits. I'm like, who's even gonna want to buy packs for this? And it was, dude, no joke. To this day, I opened like almost not every XY set. I haven't opened like Flashfire base set, Burning or Flash or Phantom Forces, none of that. And I haven't opened Team Up, but I've opened a good amount of all XY Sun and Moon boxes on the channel. That has been the one box that is not sold out.
Really?
Yeah.
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 I mean, it's fair because the price per pack but I feel like the reason why though is because the price per pack that you're paying to chase for a card that's worth no more than $50 burns.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Nah, it burns. I mean, I can understand it from that perspective, but I mean, it's obviously, like I said, it's performing better than burning. Like, it's not like it's crazy. Like, there's a huge difference, but like,
even evolutions make sense to chase because, like, yeah, the chase cards aren't worth a lot, but graded they are. Like, if you go to PSA 10 graded Charizard Hollow, I mean, you're talking $1,500 or whatever it's going for. So it's like at least has the grading chase where it's like, man, Forbidden Light just has.
What about Guardians Rising? I mean, because Guardian's also going for, let me double check. Guardian's going for 450. Yeah, it's going for more than Burning as well. Burning is literally, I mean,
do you remember Guardians Rising? That was the best set ever. Remember that?
Oh man.
You remember that? That was the Tapu Koko, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wanted that set.
Oh, how times have changed. So if we're looking at least expensive, it goes Crimson Invasion, base set, and then burning, right? Unless I'm missing one. And then after that, then it goes Guardians, then it goes, I mean, not to say that because a set is like more expensive, therefore it's a better set. Like, let's be real here, but like, yeah, no, it's I don't know, it's interesting.
People are having conversations about the Kingdra Greninja box. What's your take on those? Like sitting on them, getting the promo, sitting on a bunch of promos. Like, how do you play this?
It's a great question. I really, really want to make an argument for the grading play, but I haven't opened enough to know what the print quality is specifically for the Greninja and the Kingdra. So obviously it's discretionary in that regard. I don't know if that's something you've attempted, but I think it could be a cool grading play if you want to do a rush on it and try and get it in a 10 and just absolutely like max out value on it. I mean, there's no way there's one. I mean, actually, that's not true. Can we check that right now? Is there actual like availability of data for 10s for the cards yet?
I would expect someone has already rushed it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's take a look and see if there's. I want to look at it on eBay and see real quick. But we'll look up Greninja EX from Shrouded.
Yes, Sir Amanda said, and I've heard this from multiple people that have opened. The quality's terrible. The centering's terrible. Like it's they're gonna be great. So 10s may actually have some value.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it yet, but it will be interesting to see what that could potentially be going for. I mean, dude, the promo itself is selling for $13 to $15. Like, it's freaking gnarly. But
it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. But I mean, let's be real. It's very rare you find a promo that has good quality. I don't know. I feel like more than often than not, like promos tend to have grading plays a lot of the times early on. Just want to specify that because of the print quality. I mean, you remember when the Charizard Ultra Premium Collection came out and how many people were like, oh, the print quality sucks for the promos. Send them in. Like that was a huge grading play a lot of people were talking about. I mean, heck, dude, I know this might sound crazy, but like, you know what I think is something that I've wanted to do for a while now is, you know, the like Charizard promo from like the Champions Path ETBs.
Yeah.
Those are going for like $3 or $4. If you go send in like 100 of those, one of them gets a black label.
I was going to say, yeah, the black label play. Yeah.
The black label is for $1,000. You just paid for all of the cards to grade. Like
I have my first Beckett order. It should be coming back here soon. I'm gonna see how that goes. I am considering trying to make the black label play more and more. Like the exponential, like the amount of times you can miss is like made up for with just one. It seems like if you get one out of every 10 cards you send, it still makes sense. If
you send in 100 cards, right, and you obviously want to curate this, right? These aren't just 100 random cards you bought. Like you are pre-grading these cards. One of them hits a 10 in like a black label, and you send in 100. Even if only like another 10% of the cards hit like just regular 10s, like Beckett 10s.
Yeah, pristines are still worth something.
You're walking away with significant value.
I don't know how the liquidity.
How much was it for you to send it in for grading with subgrades?
I want to say 18.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never sent it into Beckett before. It scares me.
Yeah, it's my first time, so I'll let you know how it goes.
I've always been PSA. I had a PSA submission I sent in last month, another PSA submission I'm sending this month, another one I'm probably going to send in here shortly. So, dude.
I like it.
Oh, yeah, dude.
So back to the grading. Does this mean
what I'm most excited about? It might be kind of hard to see.
There it is.
Which one it is. Dude,
so
I bought it.
Grading, does that mean you're back to content here soon too?
Oh, yeah. I might as well talk about that. So, yes. So a couple of things actually. Little story time with Eli. So we have someone at our local shop that, funny enough, comes to our commander nights, and he's a cinematographer. And so we're going to do a test run out here where he's going to do one video. We're going to do one video a week of just pre-recorded video of like, you know, me sitting here, right? Just doing what I'm doing, just talking about what's going on. And we're going to do another video of him actually recording me in the shop and like doing like a shop video, which I think would be really cool. And it's gonna actually have like some high quality production. Dude, it's crazy. We had him come out to the shop last night because he was doing some staging photos for product that we want to display for like the social media and stuff. Dude's got like a $10,000 camera. Like, it's insane. But anyway, so we are currently in the process of getting a bunch of like staging photos and everything for Instagram for the shop, and then also taking new pictures for the online portion. And then once we have kind of got that dialed in, we're creating a roadmap right now for how we want the content creation to look like for him. And then we're going to bring it to him, and we're going to sit down and have like a full-on meeting of how we're going to plan it out progressively through bringing the content back in. So I'm excited about it. It's going to be really nice because the guy, he's an amazing guy just from meeting him so far. And he's got a really strong background in content creation. He actually used to work for a label, funny enough, and recorded like music videos. I didn't even know that until he mentioned it last night. So it'll be really cool to see because he's done a lot of social media management. So I'm really kind of hoping that he could help us get back into the swing of things with the channel. So I'm wanting to kind of get that dialed in. More than likely, though, I mean, at least from discussing with him, he told me that I should wait until we get back from Japan, because it doesn't make sense for me to post a video this upcoming week and then be like, all right, I'm gone for the next 2 weeks. Bye. So that's kind of what his recommendation is. So we've just been hyper focusing right now on the store and getting our like pictures taken for socials, and then advertising our Friday Night Commanders. So that's kind of what I'm excited about the most. But yeah, no, I guess I'll just kind of tease that and talk about it because we had a meeting about that last week, and then we're gonna have another one this week. So it's gonna be good, man.
Nice. Still, so I've heard like obviously the rumors, but like still zero evidence of any reprints, just 151 bundles. Like, I know there was like we talked about a bundle of like other. Is there any reprints like on the horizon at all?
I mean, I talked to my rep today, literally like one of my reps. I was like, it's just bundles, right? And they're like, yep, that's just it. That's what we've gotten so far. Talked to my other rep yesterday. It's just bundles, right? Yep, just bundles. So I ask almost every day, just like in case something happens. I mean, but here's the deal. There are instances where like last second you will hear, oh, it looks like we're getting more than bundles. But like usually it's very last second. So I'm only going with what I'm being given currently speaking. So, and one of my, I will say though, oh dude, it's just, I mean, how much are bundles going for anyway? Like on for 151, do you know by chance? I mean, I can look it up real quick right now.
I'm going to guess like 40,
463. Yeah. One of my distros that isn't even bundling it, I literally asked them how much they're going to sell it for. They're going to sell them for $400 for a display.
What?
Yeah. I'm like, that's so disrespectful.
Dude, they're going for 460.
I know. So, but yeah, that was kind of upsetting to me when they told me that. So, but here's the deal.
151 is not going to drop in price then at all.
I don't know. Here's the thing. We've got 3 main distros we buy from. One of them, if stuff like this happens, at least so far, they're one of our newer distros. They typically don't tend to give really good cuts on like new product that comes, right? We've got 2 other distros. One of them has like a weekly specials page. Everyone in the program already knows who that is. They usually give a pretty decent price for what the market value is, and they don't require you to pick it up as a bundle a lot of the time. So they'll probably be good to get it from. And then our other main distro, they tend to bundle things. So we'll probably be getting a bundle for that. We'll see how the bundle is, kind of gauge it from there. So I'm more or less disregarding that specific distro because this isn't unorthodox from what they usually do. Compared to the other 2, that's kind of who I'm more or less waiting for. So we'll kind of see what that's going to look like. But
I mean, like for card shops, you could make money. But people are selling online, like as card shops, like as you can't even really make money, like unless you're selling through your own site. I mean, you get it for 400, you sell it for 460 on TCG Player, eBay, shipping and fees. Like they're just taking away any ability for people to make money. It's weird.
Yeah, people are saying good luck with the 1% black label. Hey man, 1% is all I need if I'm sending 100. No, I'll take that.
I know people that have gotten really good black label rates. Here's what I would say: like everything in grading depends on like kind of like unfortunately like experience, like knowing exactly what obviously there's always going to be talks of grading companies, protecting their populations and all that. And I'm sure PSA does the same thing, especially with vintage. But you can give yourself better chances, like knowing what to look for and pre-grading much harder. And so any card I send to Beckett are things that have like already been PSA 10 candidates. And I'm going back to look at them a second time and saying, are these like as perfect as possibly can be to the naked eye? Like, so, I mean, I'm not going to just send in all kind of cards. Like some people, I think they think they're better pre-graders than they are. And then they get no black labels and they make these videos saying, oh, I can't get any black labels. It's all a scam. It's just like, I'd like to see your PSA grades too. Are you getting like 60% 10s? Like, so like you got to know what you're doing.
You're crushing in the 10 grade, right? For PSA.
Dude, I mean, I kind of quit buying as much online, TCG Player, eBay, things like that. I'm buying mostly at card shows or in person at card shops. So yeah, I mean, I've got mine, and this is English. The Japanese is easy to get high grades. Like I'm usually getting like an 85% 10 rate with my submissions, which is pretty good.
Yeah. Question for you. This is kind of off topic. Once it hits assembly phase, how long in your experience does it usually come?
It's hard, man. Like sometimes it can be a few days. Sometimes it could be like a week and a half. Like it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
I will say, like once it goes past assembly, it basically gets shipped immediately. Like it jumps from assembly like to complete, and then you'll like get a shipping notification the next day. So that's kind of like a long phase usually.
Right. Well, I guess the reason why I asked that is because the last submission I made, which actually had more cards, was actually faster, and the assembly phase was like a day. Like it was so quick. I sent in 36 cards with that previous submission, where this one I sent in 27 cards. And so it looks like it's taking about a week longer, and it is been sitting in the assembly phase for the past 4 days now, I think, which isn't like crazy long, but going from like it just kind of completed one day. I'm like, I don't want to wait anymore. I'm ready.
PSA makes no sense. Like I had 5 orders there, and I ended up getting like 2 of the middle orders back before I got like some of the ones I sent before. And it's like, there's no rhyme or reason. And like, I guess like I had like a 90 something card order come back before a order I sent like 2 weeks before that was only a 40 card order. So it's like, there's really no rhyme or reason for it, man.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense that nothing makes sense, baby. But yeah, no, foreseeable future for those people that have questions about like, prints on stuff. We've had, like I said before, we've had a couple of bundles that have kind of been thrown out recently with product. I mean, we had the Paldean Fates bundle. We had a Twilight Masquerade bundle that just got given our way for the wholesale program. We have, it looks like ETBs that are being put out on distro for the first 3, sets of SV. 151 is going to come. There's some reports from one of my distros that we're going to get Obsidian Flames boosters in again. So I don't see this as anything other than just kind of foreshadowing what's going to happen over the next month once we hit holiday season. Not saying that once it hits September, boom, like everything just starts crashing, but September is the start of it all, right? Like usually you'll start to hear news of like August time, like you'll either hear like news of reprints coming, or like you'll have some small reprints kind of kick it off. But then like the flood usually like I literally said this to Alex before stream. When it comes to Pokemon reprints, when it rains, it pours. You usually see like just a gush of just product all of a sudden just dump onto the market.
Hey, Mike, dude, don't take this the wrong way. This is not me putting you on the spot, but like I have to address this every time I see it because I have
this question.
Yeah. What do you mean by other SV sets that need reprints? What do you consider needs reprint? Like what I'm thinking is they raised MSRP to $160 a box. Other than Paldea, every other set is sitting between $100 to $120. I don't see anything needing that seems like a healthy, stable market to me. So like, what do you mean by need reprints?
Did Chilling Reign need a reprint when it went to 200 and was still in rotation? Did Fusion? The problem, I feel like, I
think sets need reprints when they're new and they break like, or even get close to MSRP, like 160. If it gets like 150, 160, 170, yeah, I get it. But like, I think boxes should be 100 to 120 for a healthy market. That way, stores can make a little profit, a few dollars. That way, they're staying valuable enough. People that they have some confidence in them. That way, the cards are remaining valuable. Like we don't want boxes to fall into the 80s. That's an unhealthy market. The same way we don't want boxes to go to $150, $200. I think that's an unhealthy market the other way. But like, is, you know, $120 Twilight, is that unhealthy? Is $110 Temporal Forces? Is that
I know. It's funny. It's funny because you're like, yo, most like, okay, we obviously get a good deal in the wholesale program before shipping and fees and everything. We're paying 80 at a box. That is really good. You talk to most other like retailers, they're usually paying anywhere between 95 to like 100, unless you're like one of the bigger stores, right? Like some of the people that have YouTube channels that are maybe paying like 91, 92. But like even then, like we're still beating the majority of people, unless you're talking like a Safari Zone, right? And so the reality of the situation is, if you're saying the majority of stores are at like 95 to $100, it's how much they're paying. And then you say to yourself, okay, 125, like, is that too much? Does it need a reprint? 25% margins for a storefront should not warrant a reprint. Like, oh my God, they're not making 1% margins. We need to reprint this sucker in the ground. But it's because at the end of the day, like, the perception is from the perspective of the consumer and not from the manufacturer to the distributor to the retailer. And
yeah,
that's
and again,
kind of the big difference.
It's not to go at Mike. Like, Mike, this was not like, I don't want you to take it that way. It's just like, I like to talk about it every time that question is brought up because it needs to be talked about.
Well, and the big thing is too, that I think is important to understand, and this is something that I have come to grips with, and I just hate to say it, but like Pokemon doesn't give a flying frick about what's needed and what's not. They will reprint it when they want to reprint it, and that's the reality of the situation. Like, we got obviously Silver Tempest and Lost Origin reprints, and with that was Scarlet and Violet base reprints. Did Scarlet Violet base need a reprint? Definitely not. But it got it, and they did it. I mean, and there's been so many instances of that happening. And then all of a sudden you've got sets like Chilling and Fusion, which, you know, the argument could have been made, which I was one of the people making it, that it would be nice if it got a reprint, right? Because it's at $200. It's still in rotation, right? Evolving was at, you know, $300, $400, $500, still in rotation, still could have gotten a reprint. In theory, could have needed a reprint. But at the end of the day, Pokemon Company didn't care, because at the end of the day, what the Pokemon Company does is they reprint the product. And sometimes they come out with a second reprint, but for the most part, it's usually set release, reprint, maybe a second smaller reprint, and then done. And that's it. They usually aren't just like reprint, oh, the price is crazy, let's reprint it because the price is crazy. And then if it stays down, we don't reprint. Like, they don't look at the market price as an indicator of whether they're going to reprint a set or not.
I'm telling you, man, I think it's influencer culture. With the amount of like YouTubers that popped up, kind of, you know, I guess you could say around my time. You know, it's just like this. I don't even know what you call it, like just this coined term that everyone likes to talk about, and so it's become so like widespread, and it's like the big topic of conversation. But you know, reprints, and then also the thing that's happened, which we've talked about, which, you know, I hate, is like, we never looked forward like a year ahead to sets like we do now, right? Like, people like see Japan like get a trademark, and they're looking at sets that are like going to come out in like March or April of next year. Like, these two things have just drastically changed from where they were like 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And so like, I don't know why this whole reprint thing is such a huge topic of conversation now, but guys, I don't think it should be that big of a factor when going into like thinking about what moves you're going to make. There have been sets that have gotten crushed, right? Everyone looks back to Chilling Reign and Fusion Strike. Everyone wants to look back to sets like Roaring Skies and Primal Clash, but that's not the norm, right? The norm is like what happened with like Lost Origin, right? Like, it falls a little bit for a while, then it runs back up, right? Or like Brilliant Stars falls, runs right back up. And so like, don't think that like reprints are going to come and like wipe out your investments, or you're going to be able to find reprints for $80 or $90 a booster box. Like, there's a possibility that will never happen.
Yeah. 1000%, man. That's why Alex is officially going forward and ordering 20 cases of new set release product, because you just don't know, man.
It's true. It's true. We might up it to 40. How much can you get?
Dude, I already told you, man. You're gonna be able to get as much as you want, more than likely. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. I should get my numbers this week, but I'm hoping that we should get our fill and then some. So, but We've been going for an hour and 45. I feel good at calling it here. How do you feel?
Yeah, man. I think we pretty much answered everyone's questions.
Cool. Well, I want to thank you guys all so much for stopping by. As always, if you're interested in getting access to Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and so much more wholesale pricing, check out the link down in the description below or message me on Discord if you have any questions. And then outside of that, support the channel, leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. And then, of course, Alex with Nostalgianomics, his link is down in the description below as well. But all right, guys, thank you all so much for stopping by. We will see you all next Tuesday. Peace.